Turf today. Get up and brush off the dew on that. Turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Cut it and roll that dew on that. Turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Set up, they about to come through on that. Turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Get up. Turf today. Get up. Turf today. Let's get out the way. Here comes first play. Let's maintain that turf today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Turf Today, recorded on the Superintendent Network and brought to you, as always, by Toro. Everybody, welcome. I'm Adam Kershane, joined by Brian Laurent. We got an awesome one today. This is one we've been looking forward to for a while. The Director of Agronomy at Big Cedar Lodge, Bubba Wright, joins Turf Today to get into a lot of fun stuff. So this is going to be a really good one. We are really looking forward to digging into things with Bubba. But before we do, let's head down to Ohio, chat with Mr. Laurent. Happy Masters Week, brother.
It is Masters Week, my man.
Yeah, we made it. We made it.
It's unbelievable how quickly this winter, at least down here, the winter's gone. I know you've been hammered with some snow and whatnot. Hold on a second. Let me let my dog in. He's going to freak out. Come on.
Yeah, well, we've had lots of snow and people have heard me complain for a while, but I was back out blowing greens off the other day. Pretty much all the snow's gone, no frost. So we just need things to start warming up and we'll get the golfers out there soon.
Yeah.
Light at the end of the tunnel, which is nice.
This is kind of that sign, right? The date on the calendar when Masters is here, that means it's time to get out and play golf again. So
that's right. Yeah, we've been getting lots of content from people. You know, they're doing their first cuts or their opening days and stuff like that. So people are excited to be back at the course and working again, or either ramping up or ramping down, depending on where you are.
Yeah, it's exciting times. And then down south, they're getting ready to go into their at least slow golf season. This is kind of when they start doing all their culture practices, and a lot of, the private clubs will shut down and knock out everything they need to knock out and get ready for the fall when all the snowbirds start heading back down that way.
That's right. So you watch a little coverage yesterday. We're recording Friday of the Masters. So did you watch a little Thursday action?
I didn't really get a chance to watch much. I caught the live from on the Golf Channel last night a little bit, but between everything kind of going on here and then the kids had games last night, so I was spent about 5 hours at the lacrosse fields last night. So that was an exciting Thursday evening, but I wouldn't have it any other way, man. I honestly think I love going to those games more than my kids enjoy playing them.
Yeah, you've said that before.
It's a big problem, man. It's a big problem.
Well, it's good though. At least they got a dad that wants to be there. Yeah, that's important.
Oh yeah. And I'm always like, at least Ethan, my goalie, he always wants me to record him. He wants me to do highlights for him. And then my dad, unfortunately, kind of with my mom's health, dad can't travel over and it's just absolutely killing him. So I've been trying to play around with some streaming stuff so I can, let him tune in and watch the kids. And I know that makes his day. And
Nice.
So trying to balance all that stuff, man, there's a lot of pressure being, a dad with kids in sports.
I bet.
It's like shuttle service, make grandma and grandpa happy. And yeah, it's nuts, man.
All the fun stuff going on. Nice. Well, hopefully you get a chance this weekend to sit down and watch it. Coverage yesterday was unbelievable. The course looks amazing. A little dry, which is fun. I can't really remember seeing too many, hot spots and things like that showing up on greens for the Masters. But, that just means things are firm and fast. Yeah. We're going to have some, I know Rory was 5 under yesterday, but I'm hoping we see some higher scores today and some tougher greens and things like that, tougher pins.
Yeah. Yeah, we always see there's always a low number. Thursday, Friday, there's always a low number. Like I'm still expecting to see a 64 out there. Someone's going to go low one day, but who knows?
Yeah. We will see. The Masters Fantasy League we have going on right now on Turf Today is buzzing. I think the top 3 guys are all -8 or something like that. So
wow.
just running away
Nice.
with it after the first one. But a lot can change. And I think last year we did a little kind of like a first one just to put it out there and see how many people would want to join it. And we had like 22 teams. And this year we have over 110 teams. So it's really nice to see everybody engaging and playing along and following along, and be some good prizes for the top 3 winners.
Yeah, that's awesome. The coolers were the prize, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those things were sick.
Very, very nice. Yeah. I talked to the guys from Standard about doing it, and we were talking about Yetis, and I was like, well, they're really expensive. You know, we could probably get a couple more if we look for something else. And then we found the Pelican one, and the fact that it has different compartments, it's got a dry storage spot, it's got the lock on it and everything. Like, it's just perfect for being in the back of the cart.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw you doing a little unboxing type deal or showing it off, and man, that thing looked amazing.
Yeah. I was hoping I'd get to win one myself, but I'm in like 60th place right now. So
you don't order an extra one just for you?
It's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
We'll see. Might have to just scoop one once this is all over. Get more done across your operation with Toro's autonomous solutions, including the GeoLink Fairway Mower, Turf Pro Mobot, and Range Pro Ball Picker. Each machine is designed to handle select tasks on its own, helping your crew stay focused on other priorities. Toro's autonomous technology supports consistent results and a smoother workflow from day to day. Learn more about how these innovations can elevate your operation at toro.com/autonomous. Toro, count on it.
Talked to a bunch of guys that have been down there at the Masters. They say they're basically in complete control of that golf course.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's no rain in the forecast, I don't think. Some winds, but you know, they're going to be able to do whatever they want. So it could be a fun weekend.
Should be
now
really
you
good.
Decide to come in, huh? Now you come in. Hi.
I know. I had to leave the door open too, just in case he wants to come in. He's not scratching at the door or barking at the door.
Yeah.
Let me in, Dad.
Yeah. No kids at home today? Are they?
Nope. Everything's wide open. Yeah. Been really excited to get to talk to Bubba. This is going to be really cool. He's seems like a pretty interesting man, and he's got quite the job right now.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Very appreciative.
Yeah, well, this is actually the first one where we've had somebody reach out from an agency. So we haven't even talked to you about this. It was somebody reached out from an agency that was representing you and said they wanted to come on the show, and it was kind of like, oh wow,
nice.
This is pretty.
You
cool.
got an agent, Bubba?
Yeah,
I will say that was not my idea. I don't have any personal agents, but I think Big Cedar's just trying to get the name out there. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Bubba, we always like to start these things off and just give you a quick moment to introduce yourself. So tell us who you are, where you at, where you been, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Bubba Wright, Director of Agronomy at Big Cedar Lodge. And I've been here for about 2.5 years so far. It's been going really well. And previous to that, I spent about a decade working for the Pebble Beach Company, and got my career started, pretty humble beginnings in the Central Valley of California. I worked on a 9-hole golf course in Milwaukee, California. And if you don't know where that is, that's because not many people do, but it's at the southern entrance to Yosemite National Park. So I kind of grew up in the foothills of the Sierras. Just a great place to grow up and get connected with nature as a child. But from there, I went to a junior college, and at that time I wanted to be a journalist. So I studied journalism and wanted to be a sports reporter. And like a lot of guys, I think they kind of get their start from having a passion for sports and the outdoors. And so I was no different. And so I worked in the Valley for a few years and finally figured out that working on a golf course is what I wanted to do and what I was good at. And I wasn't necessarily good at what you guys do, which is interviewing people and writing. So
we're not very good at it either, Bubba, but we just do it.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it, right? Yeah. But and from then I was pretty fortunate. I had a superintendent that kind of guided me in the path, and went on to Rutgers, their 2-year program, and got an internship at Pebble Beach and for the 2010 U.S. Open. So crazy to think that was about 16, 17 years ago. But and then spent there for about 2 years and worked at TPC Scottsdale, and then back to the Pebble Beach Company. So I've been a few places in my travels. Nice.
And then followed Jeff there to Big Cedar.
I sure did. Yeah. He talked to me for a while. Obviously, I worked for him on the West Coast, for a couple of years, his assistant. And when he came out here, he just kept trying to convince me to come see the place. And after the 23 Women's Open, I finally did. And convinced me to come out. So it's been a
Awesome.
great experience, but
Awesome.
pretty special
You
place.
you mentioned your upbringing and kind of being in the outdoors. Was golf a big part of that? Did you enjoy playing golf, or did you just like being out in wilderness? Obviously, where you grew up is a beautiful part of the country. So, which was it, a combination of both then, maybe?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And my family has a pretty good little ag background. They were very heavily involved in 4-H and FFA. So having that background, kind of being a pseudo farmer, raising animals, being involved in those organizations, and then also just having a really big passion for sports. Growing up, I liked playing baseball, running track, those sorts of things. I actually disliked golf. My granddad drug me out there just about every weekend though, until I finally until I finally broke down and started to play and want to play myself. So I kind of credit him for getting me on the golf course, and then from there I ran with it. So
Nice.
definitely a blend of the ag background, outdoors, and a love of sport.
One of the things that always fascinates me is that transition from I'm going to do this and then, oh, you know what? I'm actually going to get into the golf course. So take us back to that time in your life and making that decision, some of the people around you kind of, mentoring you and pushing you into the turf industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I was kind of all in as a journalism major. I joined the college newspaper, so they were kind of giving me assignments, going out, interviewing people, writing stories, and at the same time, I was working on a golf course, and I just found myself I couldn't wait to be done with the school aspect and having to go write stories and get back out in the property and kind of see my work in front of me. Yeah, that's really the original passion that I had for the business was, boy, I could see my work in front of me every day. It was incredibly rewarding, and being in a team environment, a lot of parallels there to playing a sport, being on a team, working together, for a common goal. So that was really the attraction for me. And like you said, having a mentor that I could look to and kind of guide me down the path, at least get me started, saying, hey, I know you're starting school, you're doing this, but here's a great program that you can get involved in. And it's not a massive step. Going to Rutgers is not like enrolling in a 4-year school. It's a fantastic program with a lot of resources really centered towards golf course maintenance. So I took that plunge and went out to New Jersey. And then from there, it just flourished. One of the goals after your first semester at Rutgers is you have to complete an internship. And I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to do this, how good can I be, and can I really be truly successful? And so why don't learn from the best people I can? And I was incredibly blessed to have the opportunity to go to Pebble Beach that time and work for Chris Dahlhammer. So and then the rest is kind of history. You just get people who believe in you and invest the time and be the mentor, and you got to give back too, and with your performance on the golf course. So.
We'll jump back into some of your mentors here in a little bit, but I
Yeah.
always find that a lot of guys that start in something else and then make their way into golf course maintenance, there's usually a lot of transferable skills that come along with them. So with that journalism writing background, has that helped you, whether it's member communication, communicating with your team? Has that kind of some of the things you've learned there, has that carried on with you into your current role?
Yeah, there's no doubt. And the journalism aspect side, my mom was a teacher, and so she really harped on me with writing skills and being able to communicate and double check your work. And now I find myself using that every day. Certainly didn't at the beginning of my career, when I was out in the field more, but now it's been so valuable. So absolutely. And I look back and 4-H was a massive aspect to that. I really didn't find myself enjoying raising a pig as much, or my sisters were really into raising sheep and pigs and chickens and all these things, but more so the community service aspect and giving back is what I take from that, and all the citizenship aspects of it as well. So just a ton of transferable skills in our industry, especially as you continue to grow your career. You're going to have those. It's not something you wish you had. It's kind of a requirement to be successful.
So leaving school, you take an internship at Pebble Beach, which is obviously an unbelievable property to be at. And then you decided to stay there. So you decided to continue
Yeah.
on with your career there and keep that job, and you worked there for a number of years?
Yeah. So I interned there and went back to school and was really fortunate enough to come back. And I was an AIT for about 2 years. And I will say through that process, it was pretty eye opening. Like I said, I worked on a 9-hole golf course with 4 guys, and I moved to Fresno to go to a junior college, and a little bit bigger golf course, bigger staff, but just nothing compared to the size and scope. And I'm some kind of farm boy sitting here getting ready to help prepare a golf course for a U.S. Open. So it was a bit intimidating, very eye opening, but my family kind of told me going out there, I remember this quote and still use it to this day was, it doesn't matter if they have you pulling weeds in the parking lot, you do your best at it and just kind of see what happens. And that was my mentality, and getting ready for an open, we had about 10 interns and I was the bottom of the barrel, and I was the last guy hired, and I was also the youngest. So I kind of had to earn my bones in that regard, but just an incredible experience. And from there, I got my first assistant's job at TPC Scottsdale. So I got to see that madness, with the tournament and everything. But another great experience. And inevitably, they lured me back, and I spent another decade on the peninsula.
You mentioned earlier, you didn't need those writing skills early on in your career, but now obviously a little more office time, a little more administrative stuff required. I'm always curious to kind of hear people's take on that transition from being in the daily grind to now you're, more manager status, and the stuff that you did that you maybe didn't love to do. I mean, I don't think I've ever talked to anyone that loves digging holes and, repairing irrigation, all that kind of stuff. But, the hands-on aspect, I know a lot of people love to be hands-on. Did it take you a while to adjust to more of that managerial administrative role versus being in it with the guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of guys and gals get into this because you're trying to get out of an office, right? And the nature of maintaining the golf course, it's this living, breathing property that, you have to be out there and see as much as you can every day and get in with the team and execute, whatever your plan or vision is. And you get to see all those come to fruition. And then when you take a bigger role, I guess, and like I said, more of an administrative role, it's just a different sense of reward, and so in different challenges, which I think, at the baseline, superintendents love solving problems, so I still get to solve problems, maybe not in the way that I used to do. So there was certainly a transition in my current role of saying, okay, I've been on, my 18 holes, and I'm my team, and I get to maintain this and get my hands dirty and get all my touch points with the team and the crew and on the property. And now, you gotta kind of have to take your hands off the wheel a little bit and just trust your team and give them the resources to be highly successful. And you work on all the other skills, whether it's, hey, I learned I need to be a better communicator. We have 6 golf courses here and 130 greenskeepers in peak season. I need to get better at my time management skills. How can I see more of the property and get more touch points with my team to make sure I'm present with the guys. So just a different set of skills, still rewarding. And the nice part is it's still just a different challenge, which I think a lot of people get into the business to solve. So.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of men and women out there that are working superintendents, right? So they'll handle everything behind the scenes, but then they'll still be the first one to jump in the hole when something's happening. So it's a big thing in our industry to have people that are able to do a lot of different things. I wanted to ask you about that, another transition, heading out of basically leaving the coast and going right up to the desert to work at TPC Scottsdale. Was that your decision, or did somebody kind of push you in the way of maybe go learn a different type of grass or a different area, climate, that kind of thing before coming back or before taking on a bigger role?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple variables there. That was in 2012, and the economy was still fairly slow. Coming out of 08, and at that time in the Pebble Beach company, there were a lot of experienced assistants and superintendents, and so there really wasn't an opportunity for me at that time to get promoted. So, kind of having the same mentality as when I went out there, I said, okay, let me try to find the best place for me to continue to grow and learn, and what better place than a golf course that has a tournament, has a lot of resources, but also working in the desert. What I found is is, you get to have two crops. You got your Bermudas in the summer, overseed in the winter, and in the fall. And that was the first time where I really felt like a grass farmer, so you're planting this new crop, getting to see it come up. And sure enough, 5-6 months later, you're figuring out how to transition that back to your warm season to give you a bed to grow for the next season. So that was really an incredible experience, and really the true feeling of being a grass farmer. And in hindsight, was a great decision for my career. So.
Yeah, that overseed process always fascinates me, man. That's just
wild.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
It still does to this day. You get to kind of think of it from an artist perspective, kind of put paint on your canvas.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to jump back then to some of your mentors. You mentioned Chris Dahlheimer, now Jeff Steen as well. Talk about some of your mentors and some of the things that they have taught you and that you kind of use as part of your management philosophy these days.
That's a long list of mentors, when you really put it out there. And if I miss anybody, I apologize, right off the gate. But Chris was, great for me because, one, he's an expert in what he does. He's passionate about what he does. So what I took from him is just, hey, you can always get better. There's always some lever that you can turn. I don't care how good that tournament was or how well the team is operating. There's always something that you can improve on, and level-headed and approaching it with a workmanlike positive attitude. And even in Scottsdale, I got to work for Jeff Plotz and Brandon Reese, who's now the director there, and then Jeff spent some time at Sawgrass. So just really leaders in the field. And I think what I found was, you get into it and you're trying to learn as much as you can on the agronomic side. You're saying, okay, what are all these, agronomic programs and chemicals and fertilizers, and, what's my proper watering practices? But what I really take away and as my career has grown is just, how they approach their personal relationships. How do they manage the team? How do they improve morale and be a mentor? And how do they deal, with different vendors and all these personalities, and if you look at, the course of a week for a superintendent or a director or whatever your role is, you're going into the pro shop, then you got a meeting with the vendor, and then you got a staff or a personnel issue or something on the golf course you need to address. So, you have all these touch points throughout the course of your job. And so learning how to navigate all those relationships, has probably been the biggest takeaway in how you present yourself and present yourself to the team and build a quality team. So a ton of takeaways. I've been, incredibly fortunate to work for some very competent and caring people that have guided me to the person I am today. So, and that's, now in this part of my career and my role, it's, man, how can I be that person that has people look up to me in the future? So very rewarding and very fortunate.
So when you talk about your leadership style, is there somebody, one of your mentors that you kind of model, your leadership style after, or is it sort of just pieces from everybody you've worked from? Yeah,
I've certainly tried to take pieces from everybody I've worked from. And Chris kind of told me that early on, just saying, hey, there's going to be things that you might admire about me and things that you don't. And so you just got to take those pieces and try to mold it into your management style to ultimately find what works for you best. And all those guys, have so many more positives than negatives that I've been able to draw after and use as a resource for my own style. But if there's a young turf manager out there, just try to work for as many great people as you can and lean into that mentorship.
Yeah, that's key. You got to find the right fit. You got to find the right person to learn from. That makes the world of difference.
And it's not always about, hey, I got to work at a top 100 or a tournament course. There's just a lot of great people in different parts of the business that can help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned you got your start at just a little, basically mom and pop 9-hole golf course. How did that experience, being involved with a place that probably has an extremely limited budget, you're doing everything, how did that experience kind of shape you and guide you to where you are now?
That was probably the funnest part of my career, to be honest. As a 18 or 19-year-old, I mean, there was really no uniforms. I was going out there in a tank top with my headphones on, getting to listen to whatever I wanted to. And
That's not part of the Big Cedar uniform, the tank tops and flip flop. No.
I haven't. We are in Missouri, but I haven't been able to convince them of that quite yet. But now it's Bass Pro Shop hats. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, but like I said, I mean, just when you get into it, and you're getting to hop on all these different pieces of equipment and do all these, fixing irrigation and working on pumps or whatever it takes you into, especially with, we had 3 guys. So I got to do just about everything you could possibly imagine. I didn't necessarily do it well, or maybe learn how to do it the right way, but, I've kind of figured it out as I went along. But
You mentioned where you are there in Missouri.
yeah,
Obviously, major contrast from being out there on the Pacific coast at Pebble Beach. Talk about the difference and how you manage being there kind of in the hot, humid Midwest.
yeah, it was certainly a culture shock is probably a good way to put it. When you're if anyone out there spent the Monterey Peninsula and they've been to southern Missouri, I don't think you can find maybe a bigger contrast in the country of lifestyle, but certainly something that kind of beckons back to maybe how I was brought up, I guess, and some of the values that I had. But like you said, there's certainly not many parallels, whether it's lifestyle, cost of living. I will say the price is right down here compared to Monterey. So certainly more freedom in that aspect. But this is the heart of the transition zone. So where coming from a Mediterranean climate, there's maybe not as many stresses. Here, you're trying to manage 3 different monostands of grasses, whether it's bent grass greens, zoysia fairways, tall fescue roughs, and inevitably, neither one of those grasses wants to perform at its highest level at the same time. So certainly a different set of challenges. But, what I tell the team, if we can be successful here, you can take this and be successful just about anywhere, so it's a great place to learn, for the up and coming assistants or AITs and interns but not so many parallels on the golf course maintenance side. But when you look at the resort as a whole, really the same foundation, is providing, a world-class experience to the golfing guests, get them coming back and really approaching every day with the same attitude as how can I get this guest to have an incredible experience and get them to return.
We are back with another Ask the Agronomist segment featuring PhD agronomist Tony Goldsby from the Andersons.
Well, thanks again, Adam, for having me on the show this week, and thanks again for all the great end user questions we're always getting.
It's a new season and challenges will arise. That's where the Ask the Agronomist segment comes in. With expert insights from Tony Goldsby at the Andersons, we're always answering questions, real questions, from turf managers just like you. Send us a DM on Turf Today or hit up anybody you know from the Andersons to be part of the conversation. We appreciate all the support, and remember, no question is too small. This is a safe space. Let's learn together. So, Bubba, I'd love for you to talk about Big Cedar Lodge just a little bit more. Just for our listeners that don't know a lot about it, it is a hidden gem. I've known about Paynes Valley and a couple of the other courses there, but I was doing my research this week, and it's an unbelievable property. There's so much going on there, the background with Bass Pro and everything. So just talk about your job there, everything going on, and a little bit about the property.
Absolutely, yeah. And and if you haven't heard about Big Cedar, the name's certainly getting out there, but really in the last 5 or 6 years, it's put itself on the map, as a true golf resort. And our founder, Johnny Morse, is the owner of Bass Pro Shops. He's very heavily involved in what we do and really the driver behind such a rapid growth. We have 6 golf courses. I can kind of run through those real quick. The first one was Top of the Rock, a 9-hole par 3 course. We have Buffalo Ridge, which was actually already here, and Johnny ended up buying that in 2014, and from there, Mountaintop is a walking only par 3 course built in 2017, and then Ozarks National in Paynes Valley, and that's probably kind of the benchmark about when Big Cedar really put itself on the map from a golf resort, and that was 19 and 20, And we've also just opened up cliffhangers last year. So, I got to get in the ground of when the property was just dirt, on the side of the hill for cliffhangers, and finally see that to the finished product last summer. But so we have 6 golf courses, and not just that, but a full-on resort, spa, restaurants. It sits right on Table Rock Lake, so there's not too many places where you can play golf, rent a boat, and also go to a shooting academy and have a world-class dinner, all in the same day.
So cool.
Yeah, it's a lot to offer. Certainly, kind of an outdoorsman's paradise, and definitely a different offering in the resort setting.
And most notably, people will probably recognize it recently from the Internet Invitational. Would love to hear if you have any stories from that you're able to tell.
That must have been a gong show.
Yeah, it was, and certainly different from maybe the tournaments I was used to working back on the West Coast. But that one was interesting, and I think from our side, we had no idea, what we were in for or how big it was going to be. When we were notified, hey, we're going to have this, Internet Invitational, was very hush hush. They played golf on the golf courses in August and released it in October. So, we had to keep everything, kind of on the down low and prepare the golf course and, shut really parts of the resort down to keep it very private. And it all worked out. And I think the last time I looked at the videos, it was like 30 million views.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, huge. Very, very popular.
When a PGA Tour event on the weekend gets, like 3 million. So around there, outside of the majors. So, that exposure has really just skyrocketed the visual of the property, tee time bookings, who we are. And so it's been very beneficial for the resort, but certainly different, from a prep standpoint, having those guys. And I'll be honest, I really I didn't really know who any of them were, going into it, outside of a few top names, some of the top Barstool guys, but now I'm kind of finding myself following it a little bit too, and trying to get involved, with that aspect of golf, which had no idea how big it was.
It's insane. I'd be curious to hear from a resort standpoint, because when I spent some time down in Pinehurst when Riggs from Foreplay spent all that time down there during COVID, they sort of saw a transition from this quiet, sleepy golf resort to now all of a sudden it's a boys trips paradise where they're coming and chugging beers and having. Did you see any sort of similar transition after that came out? Now all of a sudden you're getting more of the bachelor parties where guys are, coming out to have just a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a different clientele. And you hit the nail on the head, the bachelor party bro aspect. We have a part of our business in the reservation side that we call buddy groups, and that's groups over, I believe the number's 12 to 20, when you think about that, well, that's a prime bachelor party, right? Mm-hmm. And that number has, I think, tripled year over year for us. So can't really give all the numbers away, but the clientele has just shifted, to these guys coming from all over the country, whether it's Dallas, Chicago, New York, Florida, California, and coming out to try to create their own Barstool Internet Invitational, and have their own tournament. So it's a different clientele, but it's a great clientele. They're coming out here and they don't mind spending money to have a great experience, and they still have a little bit of respect for the game. But you might hear a few more speakers on the golf course here than maybe what elsewhere. But it's been fun, and for us, hey, if that's our identity and that's who we are, that's great, and because obviously it's attracting new people to the game.
Yeah. Golf's supposed to be fun, right? Let them, as long as they're respectful of other people in the golf course, let them come out and have a good time. So they probably want that designation on those the booking reservations too, just so they know where to put them on the property when they come to stay. Like they're going to be loud. We're going to put them way over there.
Where we can hide them and maybe have security on call later. But just kidding on that one.
It's certainly helping grow the game, allowing the game to be more accessible for more different types of people, which is huge. And for people who have not watched the Internet Invitational, the production on that was unbelievable. It was so well done. And a lot of it has to do with the property they were at too. Some of the shots and, sunrise, sunset, all that kind of stuff. It was really well done. By the time they start next year's, whether it's at your course or somewhere else, that's going to have more than 30 million views. It's going to keep going.
Did they make you sign an NDA?
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's no joke there. We all did because there was money on the line.
Right?
Yeah, big money.
They had a prize of $1 million. So, we had to keep it hush hush. And even, outside of a few people in the operations side, we didn't even know who won. So our team didn't know who the champion was because that was the big reveal later on YouTube. So pretty interesting event to go through, but just a different aspect to it for sure.
Yeah, Portnoy doesn't mess around. He keeps things high and tight.
yeah, it was. But like you said, I mean, the golf courses here are visually stunning. So they set up well for that format and still good properties. But it was pretty interesting. I think it was the only time, when they ran over some split rail on the golf course, I didn't really mind as much because, boy, it made for a pretty entertaining aspect on the videos.
So speaking of other things filmed out there, the one thing that popped up for me was the show Ozark. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but Jason Bateman, an unbelievable drama. If you have seen that show, does it do the Ozarks justice? Is that really what it's like living out there?
Yeah. I haven't necessarily hung out with those people from the show or those kinds of people on the show quite yet, but there's certainly some parallels. And I think, where that took place was up at Lake of the Ozarks, which is hour and a half, 2 hours north, and it's kind of a party lake where a lot of people go from Kansas City and St. Louis. But definitely the setting is similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the lifestyle, the lake lifestyle, and being in the outdoors. But I watched a couple episodes of that actually before I came out here, and haven't turned it on yet since I've been here. Maybe trying to avoid thinking about
potentially,
that's potentially
in the middle of the night.
yeah, right. So
you didn't use that show for research, deciding whether or not you're going to go out there, did you?
No, I try not to let that influence my decision.
That's good. That's good.
I certainly wasn't running from anything, maybe the way they were. But
what are you guys 12 months a year down there? I'm not sure what your climate is during the wintertime.
Yeah, we're a little too far north to be running for 12 months out of the year. We keep a couple golf courses open because we do get 5 inches of snow roughly in the wintertime and get some pretty consistent below freezing temps. But we do keep a couple courses open just in case you get the random 50-degree day and people want to get out and play. But our season ramps up in March and ends at about Thanksgiving. So still a wide season for a northern golf course.
Interesting. And one of the things that I recognized about the course is obviously a lot of natural areas, and you guys do a great job about conservation, sustainability, and that kind of thing. Talk to us about some of the wildlife conservations you have on the property, because when I started reading about that, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and that's you can imagine working for Bass Pro and Johnny Morris. Conservation is really at the heart of what we do, and so it's a part of our mission statement and something that we take very seriously on a daily basis. And whether having the golf courses be Audubon Platinum certified, having the resort have the same designation, but the golf courses on an individual basis, there's something really unique on every property when it comes to conservation and protecting wildlife. And you look at Top of the Rock, it's basically the botanical garden for the things that we plant and maintain, and we have our own section of our maintenance staff, and all they do is maintain flower beds and trees and that health of the golf course. And then on this side of the road, Buffalo Ridge, we have 2 herds of bison on the property that we manage and maintain and feed and water, and they have their own breeding program. So, when you're sitting on the first tee, you get to see, a herd of buffalo out there, which is pretty cool. You don't get to see that everywhere.
Was that part of your Rutgers training, learning how to take care of buffalo, bison?
Yeah, maybe more so on the 4-H side, but Fortunately, someone else takes the majority of that, and I just kind of get to watch them. But definitely unique. Over at Ozarks, we actually release pheasants. So I am directly involved in that. So that's our golf course logo is a ring neck pheasant. So we release those throughout the year and harbor that population. And then of course Bass Pro Shop, we got a lot of bass ponds as well. So very healthy in that regard. But it's really at the heart of what we do. Whether it's through recycling, sustainable practices on the golf course. Collecting rainwater for irrigation, things like that. So big part of what we do working for John.
And I want to get to John here in a little bit, but I think one of those big misperceptions about the industry from those on the outside is that, we're so wasteful and, polluting the environment and all that. And I know you guys, make a big deal of doing everything the right way, but I think in general, superintendents are always looking to do things the right way and protecting the environment. I just would be curious on your thoughts of just the industry as a whole and maybe some of those misperceptions from the general public.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will give credit to the GCSAA for trying to do a lot on the advocacy side, working with governments and local agencies. But superintendents in general, we get into this because we do love the outdoors and we love conservation and we love nature, and that's a big part of what we're trying to do is how can we maximize golf course conditions while using less resources. It's still a business and you have to have a product, but we've gotten very creative on that side about everything that we do, whether it's from organic fertilizers or utilizing reclaimed water, even in the autonomous, what you're seeing from that side, not using, fuel and oil and labor. Really a golf course superintendent is a steward of their environment. When you think about these golf courses, especially in an urban setting, is that better as a Walmart parking lot? And no offense to Walmart, but or is it better as a really a wildlife refuge, and a place to get outdoors and connect with nature?
So you mentioned GCSAA there as well. I'm glad you did, because Johnny was a recent recipient of the old Thomas Morris Award. Talk about maybe his involvement, his interest in what you all do as the agronomy team there.
Well, he doesn't call me a director of agronomy. He still calls me a grass farmer. But we'll try to break him out of that at some point. But that's just his sense of humor. But he loves golf. I'm pretty sure he's down in Augusta right now watching the tournament. But what he's done for the industry and highlighting the Ozarks and doing that, having golf courses and getting people from all over the country to see this beautiful part of the world is pretty special. And what's unique about John, his son JP as well, who's heavily involved in the golf side of things, is the vision they have is really incredible. You go into a Bass Pro Shop, it's not just a retail store, it's an experience. And you have the same feeling on our golf courses where, boy, I'm not here just to play golf. I'm really getting an incredible experience, whether it's from getting free bison hot dogs at the turn station. And when I say turn station, it's kind of a Taj Mahal of hot dog stands, so very, very well done. Or the hospitality side, Greg Thomas, our director of golf, they do an outstanding job of really genuine Ozarks hospitality. And you go on the properties themselves and, you're going to see water features or Amish bridges or whatever it might be that is so much more than just a golf experience.
I love how you mentioned walking into a store. It's not really a store. I take my young kids to Bass Pro Shops all the time. Just let them run around, go through all the stuff, look at all the animals. It's like going to an adventure park or an amusement park. It's awesome.
The best part of that whole award thing was when he gave everyone gift certificates as you walked out of the award ceremony.
What a beauty.
Oh my God. Yeah, I got my son, he ended up getting a fishing pole out of that thing. So he's still using it. It's awesome.
He still does that for his employees too. He's very generous. So just a very, very good hearted man, good person to work for.
Love that. Well, we talked about being a working superintendent, and now that you're a director of agronomy, you're kind of managing superintendents in the courses. So how often do you actually get out and do some physical labor?
Physical labor, yeah, probably not as much as I should like or maybe should be doing. That's for sure. I still get my steps in. 6 golf courses. We try I try to get to see as much of the property as I can, and the biggest thing there is just being present for the team. Is how can I be a better communicator? How can I better communicate the vision for the property or the goals of ownership or things that we're getting feedback from our guests. So I'm very fortunate and blessed to have a great team around me. I will say, we've got some experienced superintendents who are really good at what they do and more importantly, passionate about what they do. So it keeps me motivated and intent on doing a great job. So I see a lot of the golf courses every day and kind of get hands-on feedback from the team and especially the supers and assistants. And you have your weekly meetings and try to keep those short as I can and to the point so we can get back out in the field. But it's definitely different. I've kind of made it a goal this year to try to just get out and just cut cups every once in a while with the guys. It hasn't happened quite yet, but still on my to-do list and kind of get back to really the foundation of what you love doing.
Before we go any further, we have to talk about Apex 10 by Green Nature. Every season brings new pressure, tighter windows, tougher conditions, higher expectations. That's where Apex 10 from Green Nature steps in. Designed to support plant health and maximize performance, Apex 10 helps your turf stay strong, resilient, and ready for whatever comes next. Whether you're managing stress, pushing recovery, or dialing in consistency, Apex 10 is built to deliver. Because in this industry, there are no off days, only opportunities to be better. To learn more and reach out with your questions, follow them on Instagram at Apex10Life.
You mentioned it's a big property. I'd love to hear how far is it or how long do you have to drive from one property to another, and how challenging does that make it to stay in touch with your teams all the time?
Yeah, it can be. And that's kind of the balance is trying to be as present as you possibly can. And, we have 5 golf courses that are really centrally located. So it's a bit easier for me to get around and navigate these properties, but they also sit on about 6,000 acres. So it's a wide area to cover. And over at Top of the Rock right now, that's about a 15-minute drive for me in a vehicle, in a truck. And then, we're working on building a new putting green that's about 50,000 square feet. Oh. And also a putting course, a 9-hole putting course, another great offering for the guests. But with all that activity going on, I find myself going over there a couple times a day. Well, that's, pretty much guarantee you're going to spend an hour on both those trips. And, how do I manage my time and be present? And inevitably, some plans you had maybe get canceled or meetings get postponed. But I guess that's the advantage of this day and age is there's other forms of communication too, whether it's, phones, emails, various things that you can still be present. So, but I certainly pride myself in trying to be as active as I possibly can and see the properties and get with the team. But it's tough. I think the easy thing to do is kind of, think that everything's under control and taken care of and not getting out there and putting your focus elsewhere. But at the end of the day, being on the property is really what I love doing the most. So if I didn't have that, maybe I'd find something else to do,
They need to get you a helicopter out there so you can just go from course to course, keep an eye on everybody. It'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, here he comes. Shit.
Yeah. So.
You mentioned, how much trust you have in your team. So it makes it a lot easier to not be on a certain property all the time. And then obviously you growing up in the industry, you had to develop that trust with your leaders. How do you go about earning that trust from your director, whoever it may be? And then how did your team eventually earn your trust there at Big Cedar?
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, that's all results driven. We're in the golf course maintenance business as much as, you focus on the joy and the passion. I love doing this. It is results driven, and you're only as good as the golf course is on that specific day. And certainly the foundation was already here. And we've made tweaks to the program and continue to improve the conditions or improve our staffing model or giving the guys more resources. So at the end of the day, I think my role and how I gain trust with the team is just, understanding their needs. I'm asking you to do X, provide this great facility property well conditioned for our guests to keep coming back? What resources do you need to achieve that? So if I'm not giving you the operating expenses or the labor, capital improvement projects, then I really can't say that I'm doing my job and giving you the tools you need to meet the expectations of our ownership group or our guests or myself. So as long as I'm able to do that, I really feel like that's earned a ton of trust, as we've, increased operating budgets or have more manpower, which is then seen on the golf courses. And then having really open lines of communication. I'm not a difficult person to talk to. I'm not a person that feels like there's only one way to get a job done. So I kind of like the theory of telling somebody a task and not telling them how to do it, and being surprised in their ingenuity and how they accomplish that task, and earning trust both ways. So and being present as a leader and as a communicator, and you want to have an open door policy, but also live that, without fear of repercussions. There's always going to be problems, especially with the size and scope of this facility. So being able to speak to someone at their level, I think has helped me out a lot. Not just because you have a title doesn't mean you're better than anybody. Meeting them at their level and solving problems as a team has been especially beneficial for us. And I tell the guys, as long as the results are there on the golf course, I don't care what time you leave. Probably won't be noon in our business, but if the job's getting done, you manage your time appropriately. So
you've said the word communication many times now. Talk about the importance of communication. I always tell people, growing grass is just kind of part of the job, but the communication, the leadership, those other soft skills are going to take you further than anything else. Talk about the importance of communication in your role.
Yeah. And I wasn't always a great communicator. I was probably someone who wouldn't mind sitting in the back and listening and not having to put myself out there as much, but it's incredibly vital in my role now, but it's going to be vital in any superintendent role, no matter how big or small your operation is, because you're doing it every day, whether you realize it or not. And that's something as simple as communicating course conditions to the pro shop or your ownership or your members or your team. And kind of what I find myself is, even when I approach someone on the crew, I always try to think of, what's my end goal for this conversation? What's the goal I'm trying to achieve? How am I trying to make this person feel when I walk away? And how do I want to feel, when I walk away about, has my message been received, and how can I continuously tweak my approach for that individual? So it's something that I never stopped trying to work on, because I also know it was probably a weakness at one point, and I'm not where I want to be, but being an effective communicator, you just can't put a value on that, especially in our business. So, and a lot of times when things aren't getting done the way you want, it's probably because maybe you didn't communicate it in a proper fashion, or somehow make that person feel motivated that it's their idea or they're part of a mission that's bigger than themselves to accomplish that task. So just incredibly important in our role, and something you always got to keep working on, for sure.
Is it something you mentioned that you were the guy that was comfortable sitting in the back? Is that something that you told yourself, I have to work and improve on being a better communicator?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think probably it's like an example, when you become an assistant, you're thrown into things that you never have to do, like talking to a vendor. I was probably the last guy that wanted to, pick up my phone and make a phone call or understand the value of that relationship, with your vendors or people that you have to work with. But, it's something you got to kind of break yourself down and put yourself in a lot of new scenarios that are going to make you feel really uncomfortable, and same with the golf course. You've never mowed a green before. Well, you're never going to learn unless you put yourself in that scenario and learn how to do it really well, and so communication is the same. I mean, try to tackle public speaking skills. I mean, this scenario right here, I still get nervous doing stuff like this, but hopefully as time goes on, you feel more and more comfortable and can kind of convey the message that you think of that you have in your head, or how you want to sound, or the ultimate goal of a conversation.
Well, a lot has changed over the years. We see it in sports with coaches and that old school mentality and yelling at people and trying to motivate and being hard and all that. And I love how you talked about, prepping for a conversation and really trying to customize things for the individual, because not everybody learns the same way. Not everybody can handle, being talked to a certain way. So it's very customizable. And I like how you recognize that. And the more that people can recognize that as leaders, it's going to make everything a lot better and easier for people to get along.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for the first time in my career, I'm starting to kind of feel like one of the older guys. Maybe I'm the old school guy now to a point, because the trying to connect with the younger generation continues to be a little bit harder and harder for me. Personally, just because I'm starting to get removed from that. So how can I meet on their level and what motivates them? So it's a different challenge, and I guess stuff like Barstool is what motivates them. So.
Yeah, gets them going.
Always young at heart, though, Bubba. Always young at heart.
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
A little bit different here. I wanted to ask you something specific about a certain person. Did you get to work with Michael Knoll?
I did. Yeah.
So we had him on the show a couple of years ago. He talked about his journey and everything he's done and all that. So I'd love to just hear an outside perspective on him and everything he's done for himself in the industry.
Yeah. I mean, if you've heard his story, it's very inspiring, number one. And I wish I could take credit for any of that, but it's really been all him and his work ethic and his passion. He's a very committed, passionate individual. And, we hired him at Pebble Beach as an AIT. I believe that was 2017, 2018. And we're going into a US Open. And, he kind of came in and told us his story. And if you could think of the exact opposite of golf course maintenance and all those qualities, he was in the corporate world in San Francisco, living that lifestyle. And he came down here and interviewed, to just get his foot in the door. And I was like, this guy's not going to make it. There's just no way. He's
going to get his fingernail dirty.
Yeah. It sounds great right now, getting to work out, on a golf course, but eventually it might get to you. But he's just taken it and ran with it. And his success is a pretty inspirational story in the industry. And for anybody, looking to get into it later in life, and if you know his personal story and the challenges that he had, there's nothing better than a comeback story, as Americans. I mean, that's just what we love. I know I love it. So he's a perfect example of that. And, very proud of all he's accomplished. And I know he's not done. And I think what's really impressive about Michael is, how he's given back. He's telling his story, and, he'll volunteer at prisons and tell his story to those guys, and whatever walk of life people are from, he's trying to help. So, actually just saw him at my wedding a few weeks ago. So really good dude.
Nice.
Yeah.
Along those lines, I mean, how much pride do you take in training and moving people along?
That's a big part of it, here, just you think of from a business standpoint, it's not just something you want to do, it's something that you have to do. And you better be successful at it, or else you're going to fail. We have 15 managers between our superintendents, our assistants, and also our equipment tech. So it's something that you really have to commit yourself and take a lot of pride in. And like I said earlier, it's how can you reach those people and find out what makes them tick and what are their goals. So hopefully transition to that side of my career now too, being a quality mentor.
Absolutely. We have another 10 minutes left here, Bubba. We usually leave the last little bit to you. It's your show, your episode's going to have your name on it. So if there's something you want to talk about or something you want to plug, the floor is yours.
Gotcha. Well, I've never been asked to plug anything before, but hey, just really appreciate you guys having me on and all you're doing for the industry. And it's incredibly important that superintendents, we're kind of back of house. And so we don't always, when things are great, we might not hear about it, but we certainly hear about it when things aren't great. So, what you guys are doing, giving some exposure to the superintendent and giving them a bit of a sense of pride is incredibly important. So appreciate all you're doing. And, just thank you.
I just had one more fun one here for you before we let you go, Bubba. we're seeing a lot of men and women move on from different careers. One person I want to talk about is Ken Griffey Jr. Famous Hall of Fame baseball player, is now out, one of the biggest sports photographers out there. He's at the Masters right now taking pictures and getting all these photographs. So do you see yourself maybe later in life getting back into journalism and doing some reporting or doing something like that? Is there still a passion there?
Gosh, I don't know. First off, I loved Griffey growing up. Him and Barry. I always kind of went back who was the best player. But being a West Coast guy, I guess I chose Barry. But yeah, pretty cool seeing him do that. I've seen some of the stuff, and I guess if I had to do anything at this point, I don't know, creative writing. I think I could still get into it, but I kind of would maybe see myself as driving a bus in a national park or something like that, or being a fishing boat captain.
There we go.
Nice.
Maybe not journalism, but I don't know if at this point anybody actually wants to hear my stories, or if I can.
Let's be honest. Creative writing is all done by ChatGPT these days, anyways.
Yeah.
You just
It
write a couple core ideas and gone.
It is funny, having that background. I've always I have not done it, so I was like, I'm better than this. I gotta use my brain and my mind to convey. But the last few weeks, I've been doing it.
Yeah.
Your dirty little secret. It's out, Bubba.
It's happening.
This is way better than anything I've ever created. You make minor tweaks to make it sound like it's you, but unfortunately, I think I've taken the plunge, and I might not be going back. So we'll see.
It's efficient, man. I'm in the same boat as you. I'm like, I'm going to write these descriptions on my own. I can write this on, and then I punch in a couple bullet points, and it feeds it out. I'm like, wow, that's fantastic.
And it only took 30 seconds.
Yeah. The efficiency standpoint, you're just putting these little prompts in, and it's like, this thing's just read my mind, I couldn't have done it better. So kind of scary. But,
we'll see.
Technology is changing everything. Whether it's in our industry, outside of the industry, it's insane. But Bubba, this has been absolutely fantastic. Can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us here. And again, if there's anything else you want to add before we let you go, feel free. But otherwise, man, this has been awesome, and thank you. And hopefully we'll catch up with you sometime in person down the road.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate it. And come out and see us at Big Cedar.
Love to.
I was messaging with Johnny Tillman today trying to get some dirt on you, and he wouldn't give it up. So
hey, there we go.
Guy gets a raise.
Johnny's a good guy. I
JT.
will remember that in his review.
There you go. There you go.
I appreciate that. I will not forget.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much for this. This has been awesome, and it'll be out Tuesday.
Adam, Brian,
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, Bubba.
What a guy.
Yeah. He's fantastic, man. He's fantastic.
He's got a lot going on.
That's a big property, man. That's a big place.
Did he say he sees every golf course every day?
I think he said he tries to.
He tries.
I think he tries to see. I couldn't recall how many 18-hole properties, but it sounds like they've got maybe 2 par 3s, some putting courses, but I think 3 or 4 maybe 18-hole courses. So there's a lot there. There's definitely a lot there. I mean, that's a big responsibility. There's no question about it. And again, I mean, just the location of it, the environment there. I mean, it's brutal. Going from the Monterey Peninsula, where you know what you're going to get pretty much every single day, 12 months out of the year to that, like that's a big change.
Yeah. Right in the heat of it. It's wild. But I was on their website looking at some of the courses, and just the landscape, like to get to visit a property like that, even if you have your golf clubs or not, it's just phenomenal. So they're doing an amazing job. And the fact that it's connected and started by Bass Pro Shops and everything they have going on there, all the sustainability and conservation and stuff.
Yeah. Sorry, my dog's going nuts. I think my son just got home. They're doing a lot of great things. And we talked a little bit about the owner there, Johnny Morris, and his vision and everything. I mean, just, I remember sitting in his awards ceremony and listening to him talk, and just as genuine as they come, sounded incredibly down to earth, just had this vision to help the area, basically, ultimately what it sounded like I just want to bring people here to help our community. And, he's certainly done it. And like Bubba said, with the popularity of that internet invitational
Mhm.
and 30 million people watching that thing and what it's done for that property. I have a feeling they're going to be adding a few more golf courses to keep up with the demand here.
Potentially.
Yeah.
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 It seems like a really cool spot. We'll have to make our way out there at some
I
point.
know. Yeah. I want to go out there. I know Mike Rollins was down there recently and did one of his daily grind episodes out there. And Mike does a fantastic job capturing scenery there for his videos. And yeah, he got the mouth watering a little bit looking at that thing. It
Mhm.
looks gorgeous.
Yeah, that'd be good.
It's fucking crazy, man. Super Scratch events coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone
all
go out there,
happening.
register for your local Super Scratch event. It's going to be awesome.
Going to be really good. How many total are they doing this year?
Let me count the ways. Our first one, April 27th in Philly. Then we've got May 11th in Canton, Ohio. Then we've got May 18th near Milwaukee. Then June 11th in San Antonio. Then June 15th in Rhode Island. And then it looks like we're doing grass clippings. Can't wait for that.
Yeah.
In September. Longboat Key in Florida on October 10th. Our sponsor Scramble on October 14th. Our National Invitational on October 15th. And then we just signed a contract for December 8th, I believe it is, at Carmel Valley Ranch out in Monterey, California. So that's 10 this year.
Busy.
10 events this year.
Nice.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Did that grass clippings event is going to be dynamite. I'm so pumped for it. I'm going to do the same, very similar format to what we did for the SN shootout. I'm going to do amateur partner, paired up with a superintendent. We're going to do 18 holes of qualifying, just 2-person scramble teams, no handicaps, no nothing. And then we're going to narrow it down to either the top 4 or 5 teams to do the shootout. And then we're probably going to rent out the entire place for the whole night. So then people, the shootout wraps up. Guys just want to go out, teams of, groups of 6, 8, 10, whatever, just go play, put some money down, drink some iced teas, whatever, and have some fun. So
that'd be awesome.
I'm so jacked. I'm so jacked.
Yeah.
It's just a fun place, man. It's just so much fun.
Well, it's a spot for golfers. If you're a golfer, that's where you want to be. There's everything there for you. I'd say it's so cool. And in Scottsdale, or I think they're in a different area, but the whole surrounding
they're
area
in Tempe. They're right there. So it's fantastic. So I gotta finalize the details on that, but got the final approval yesterday and gonna be putting that all together. So
that'll be good.
Should be a good time.
And then hopefully right after that, we head down to the Hamptons.
Yeah, it'll be all right, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed. So all right, man. We'll catch you soon.
Okay, buddy. Great job today.
Later.
Really well done.
Yeah, you too.
That is a wrap on another great episode here on Turf Today. Really got to thank Bubba Wright for all of his time. It's really cool getting to talk to him and check out that course, I should say, that property, all the different courses they have. Check them out online, on social media. That new Cliffhangers course he was just talking about. If you've ever been to Splash Mountain, it's kind of like that. You can drive through and walk through the mountain and then hit your tee shot through the waterfall out onto a green down there. It's spectacular. And that's just one hole on this entire property of unbelievable golf courses. So one to check out, one to put on the bucket list potentially, and one that I would love to visit. So Bubba, if you'll ever have us, I think we would love to make that trip out there at some point. The list is getting longer, but that is one we would love to visit. Just wanted to mention for anybody still listening to this or anybody actually listening to this at this point of the show, if you guys enjoy this, if you like this, help us out by giving us a rating or writing us a review. We got a bunch of ratings and reviews early on when the show started, but it's been a while. That's one of those things that can really help us when it comes to rankings and, the show showing up more and, being recommended to people and different golfers and different types of communities. So that's just one of those little things we don't ask all the time, but if you guys can throw us a rating or a review or something that can help the show, that is much, much appreciated by everybody here. The other thing we wanted to mention is all of the video versions of this show are out on YouTube. We're pretty much caught up now. We're going to try and release things quickly, if not on the Monday night at midnight, like the audio, at least sometime during the day on Tuesday or Wednesday. The only other thing I got for you today is merch on our website, turftodayshop.com. It's a perfect time. It is spring, new season. The coolest one I've seen lately that people are pretty excited about is the turf hoodies. We made just really good Gildan hoodies that are awesome for beating around on the golf course. There's all these different colors, all the different sizes, and they say turf on them. So it's perfect to identify yourself when you're out on the golf course. Get it in your club's colors. It's one we've seen a couple people order like 10 or 15 of them, and then they're getting them for their golf course and they're embroidering them on the, on the sleeve, or the one golf course did them down on the wrist. So it's kind of cool. There's something for everybody there. There's some expensive stuff. There's some cheaper stuff. There's some unique stuff. There's stuff with retro logos. We have stickers on there. We have some stuff for dogs and working on some stuff for kids. Always getting asked for stuff for kids, so we got to work on that. My kids are starting to ask for it now too. That is coming up soon. I've rambled on long enough, folks, so we will wrap this thing up. Everybody, keep those reels sharp. Shout out to all of our sponsors. Boston Levi coming to you live.
Like a thief in the night, you moved and broke me all apart. There was no sign of you but the holes in my cold heart. And I gave my world to you and you dragged me through the dark. Like a thief in the night, you played your part. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You were the drug I was, the strength behind your grip. I hated the buzz on your hallucinogenic trip. Set myself free and you'd sneak up from behind. But I was the monster in my mind. Get out, let me go, 'cause I can't do this anymore. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Death was seated on my right, disguised as love and dressed in white, eyes as black as a winter night. Grabbed my hand and pulled me in, said I'd never walk alone again, the beginning of the end. Get out, or let me go, 'cause I can't do this anymore. Get out, set me free. I'll be the soul I used to be. And I knelt down on my knees and prayed at the altar for prophecy. Oh, I screamed at the top of my lungs, I'd never put a hand on a loaded gun. And I swore to God that day, I don't believe there's a better way. Get out, let me go, 'cause I can't I'll be the soul I used to be. I'll be the soul I used to be. In the night you moved and broke me all apart. There was no sign of you but the holes in my cold heart. And I gave my world to you and you dragged me through the dark. But I was the monster from the start.